Welcome to the day after Independence Day rendition of the Government Operations and Regulations Committee meeting. We have several items on the agenda today. I do detect a quorum with Hancock, Benedict, Cash, Hall, Parker, Roberts, and Withers present. Did I miss anyone? All right. So the first item we'll be discussing today is by Council Lady Roberts, RS 2022-1608, to exempt the Marin Nations located at 5511 Centennial Boulevard from the minimum distance requirements for obtaining a beer permit. Did I say that correctly?
I think you did. So what's interesting about this is it was a restaurant and it had a beer permit. And then they switched names and it was the burger joint. Now it's the sushi place. So the neighbors are fine with it, I'm fine with it, and I would ask that you approve.
Second.
Oh, that was a movement.
Yeah. Any questions for this?
Any questions?
No sake, just beer?
I think sake is, they actually have a liquor license. They don't have a beer license. You know, it happens like that a lot. It's kind of interesting. Yeah.
All right. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yes.
And that's 8 in favor, 0 against. Councilman Swope has joined us. Next, we have RS 2022-1609 by Councilman Parker to exempt 806 Vibe Place from the minimum distance requirements for obtaining a short-term rental property non-owner occupied permit.
I'll move it.
Second. Thank you. Would you like to discuss?
Does anyone have any questions? This is the townhome development that's by Grimey's on Trinity Lane. It is largely short-term rental already, and I think there's a church near it, which is why folks are now requesting the distance exemptions to get their permits.
And you have one before at that location, is
Yes,
that
there's
right?
been others as well.
Yeah. So they have to do them one at a time as the ownership changes, or?
There's a stretch of them that are close enough to the church to count. And I talked with codes folks about doing a batch, but they, for some reason, decided we should do individual applications. I don't know why, but that's what they decided.
This way we get to meet more of your constituents. All right, yes?
What is that? Is it not an R?
It's an MU something. I believe it's MU L, but I could be wrong about that, but it's an MU something.
You're correct on that.
Yep. Yes.
I believe they can build short-term rental by right, but because this one is closer to the church,
Just
they have to get
business.
the exemption.
Yeah. Okay. And I've heard no negative feedback from the church. So.
Super. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And next item on the agenda, we have RS 2022-1615 by Allen and Hancock to approve a grant from the Nashville Prevention Partnership to the Metro Nashville Beer Permit Board to administer programs and activities to support adherence to the enforcement of underage drinking laws.
So moved.
Second.
Could you grab that door for me?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I quietly seconded.
I heard the second, thank you. Does anyone have any questions about this one? All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? And next is RS 2022-1628 by Councilman Allen and Hancock to approve a contract between the Metro government and New Origin Systems for the service maintenance and upgrades associated with Metro's right-of-way project collaboration application.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Could we get more information about the project?
Do we have anyone here that has some more information about this project?
It's NDOT, not
It may
me.
have been
Yeah.
discussed in another committee, but I have no
I
objection
can
as
kind
my board
of go
member.
to the analysis, but I don't have any additional information than what was in the actual legislation.
Okay, that's fine. Then I would move approval.
Been waiting here to find.
Well, I've read the analysis.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if there was any additional information from
Sorry. I'm trying to figure out if this is a sole source. Yeah, so this is a sole source contract there was already a prior contract for Nash Digs. So this is basically just going to allow them to continue NASHDIGs as opposed to having to go back and rebid for whatever would be a successor to NASHDIGs. Just allows them to continue to use NASHDIGs.
And NASHDIGs is the website that we use to track different municipal projects throughout the city.
Right, correct. And they're not just municipal projects. Other people can put their projects on there too. Like, I think Piedmont Gas puts their projects on there.
Got it. Sorry about that, Chair.
Oh, that's fine. I do not mind. We're all friendly here. All right, well, does anyone have any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? And bills on second reading, Bill 2022-1168 by Stiles amends the noise provision of the Metro Code relative to motor vehicles and to authorize the Department of Codes Administration to enforce excessive noise provisions.
Second.
Thank you. Councilor Stiles, would you like to discuss your bill?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So this is an amendment that just cleans up the language so that it mirrors the language for how codes will also be enforcing, mirrors what it says for MNPD. Codes will be doing enforcement during the day, not giving tickets, but doing their regular process of letters of abatement and then subsequent, without correction, going to court. And nothing else changed from before. And Council Lady Benedict, forgive me, I have a lot of air, had wanted to defer this until we got through the budget, and codes did get additional staff, so they will be able to do this enforcement. So I would like to ask for approval.
So what I have here on my list is that one inspection would be pretty difficult for an inspector to leave whatever they were doing to get to a location in time to witness a noise violation from a motor vehicle. Typically, those violations occur intermittently during the day for very short periods or at night. So either way, they don't have the ability to respond quickly enough to be effective and to catch that particular incident. And additionally, the night inspection request did not pass our budget, so they don't have dedicated night inspectors. And while property standards did receive 3 new positions within the budget, those have already been allocated for use during the day. So those are my concerns on the bill itself. Did you want to add anything to that?
That's pretty much it. I mean, the concern is being able to, we're happy to assist. The concern is being able to be effective and respond efficiently, to be able to, in some of these cases, we have to be able to witness. Sometimes videos can be sent in. Sometimes when they go to court, a judge will rule with them. Sometimes they don't. So the concern is being able to be effective to uphold this bill.
And we did have an amendment by Council Lady Allen. Does anyone want to move that amendment?
Sure, so moved.
Second.
And so on this amendment, this would be to allow the MNPD to do the inspections. But my concern there is just the overwhelming communications we've gotten from the community at large over the last 2 years about adding more and more and more to the MNPD agenda, whereas they would like us to put different situations in other people's hands instead of always making it law enforcement. Does anyone have any questions or comments about that amendment?
Hannah has a comment.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, so the amendment actually, so currently MNPD enforces this noise, amplified noise section. Codes enforces construction noise. So everything that's amplified noise is currently solely enforced by MNPD. What Council Lady Salz's bill does is allows codes to enforce 2 sections. What this particular amendment from Council Lady Allen does, it's really a clarification to just mirror the language that was used. So currently it says that codes shall enforce these 2 provisions. It's motor vehicle noise, and it's also sound amplification equipment outside of the DTC. But anyway, so it's instead of saying shall enforce, it would say shall be responsible for the enforcement of, which is the same language used for the MNPD. So Council Lady Allen's amendment is really just a clarification.
She is so efficient at making sure we dot all our I's and cross all our T's. Does anyone have any more questions about the amendment itself before the bill, just the amendment?
No, I'll wait.
Can we go ahead and vote on the amendment? And then, in the bill as amended? We made the amendment, so we can vote on the amendment, and then we can discuss the bill as amended. Is that okay?
Yep.
So, all in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
And opposed? And now we're on the bill as amended. Counselor, you can-
Sure, thank you, Chair. So I guess probably for Assistant Director, so for Hannah Zyland. And so, I'm like, I never used your last name. So if I hear a motorcycle driving down the street on Briley Parkway, which is within earshot of my home and also many homes in District 7, is this something that's going to change the enforcement of that?
No, not really. So kind of in prior discussions with codes, they would be okay enforcing things like an idling vehicle in a neighborhood, but they're not going to be chasing down cars, pulling cars over, or anything like that. So MNPD would still be responsible for that type of enforcement.
And so, if I may follow up.
Yeah.
So all right, going to then in the neighborhood, so there's a motorcycle driving, and even if it's going the speed limit, or a car, but it's just got an excessively noisy exhaust, should the public call 862-8600? How should they report this, and how will it be responded to?
I was gonna say, I don't know that I'm the best person to say how that would be enforced, but I think that you'd have the option of either the 862-8600 or the hub number 311 or reporting on the hub app with some sort of video.
I guess, yeah, MNPD
I don't think that
or
you'd
codes, how does the-
necessarily get, now codes is, again, not going to be, pulling people over. So I think that really maybe the distinction should be, is this vehicle moving or not? I mean, I think
Does the
that's.
legislation say
It
that?
does not make that distinction. The legislation does not make that distinction, but that's what codes has kind of said that they're comfortable with enforcing, because codes really doesn't enforce other moving violations.
Right.
Counselor Sass?
Thank you, Chair. So when I first started having these conversations, this is with previous Director Bill Herbert, in regards to the enforcement, this is just for daytime. This has nothing to do with nighttime violations. All of that is off the table for right now and being worked on and will come back. Just daytime during the hours that codes is working, and if someone were to see something that's similar, currently you can take a picture or you can record a video and you can submit that and it can be used if it's date and time stamped for an abatement letter to go out. So this is the same thing, and previous Director Herbert made it very clear, they're not enforcing as MNPD would, right? They're not chasing anyone. This is really what you're seeing in your neighborhood affecting a quality of life issue. So, any concerns about nighttime, this has nothing to do with that at all whatsoever.
Do we have any other questions?
So, I'm a little concerned about the difference between what the legislation says and what we're predicting that the different departments how they will be able to respond to it. So, and the amendment, we just amended it, and we put the words, "code shall be responsible for enforcing." So I guess one thing I want to understand is, are we shifting something or are we adding something?
Adding.
And so either department during the day can be responsible for non-moving vehicles.
Modified mufflers.
Modified mufflers that are.
Those are the
codes
ones
will-
that not a regular car that you hear idling in a driveway, but one where they've taken off. I don't remember what the name of that part is.
Catalytic converter.
Yes.
Actually, taking off
Thank you.
catalytic converter doesn't change the
Does it?
tone of the exhaust
It doesn't?
at all.
What does it do?
It does absolutely nothing to
You just run your
the
street
sound.
height and that's just.
Just makes it
Now,
bad
if
for
you
the
take the
environment.
muffler
It's
off
bad
of
for
it,
the environment and it makes
That's
a
a whole different
horrible
ballgame.
sound.
Leave your catalytic converters on, everyone.
And do we know if, is there any in the Metro Code relative to motor vehicles? Do we know if there's any sort of decibel limit, or are they just supposed to be able to tell, ooh, this is too loud, or ooh, this isn't?
I know the decibel limit in general is 70, right? But I don't know if that would pertain to
So
the number
actually,
of
for this one, it's a
people.
plainly audible standard.
Okay.
So the current law is plainly audible from 200 feet. This bill would reduce that from 200 feet to 75 feet or any point within the interior of a residential structure.
So that's even if you say your neighbor is playing music and you're in your living room and you can hear that, that's.
Right, correct. That's a different standard, that's a different section of the code, but that's the same standard. So that's also a plainly audible standard.
Gotcha.
This
And
is
construction is decibel,
Specific.
Construction is, I believe, decibels,
which code says they have trouble.
which is also, yeah, subject of
Documenting
another,
for court
of another bill.
purposes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Councilman Sweet.
Question for the sponsor. Does this resolution, or is it a resolution or an ordinance? Does this ordinance change the way we currently deal with the racetrack at the fairgrounds in any way?
No, it's not my intention at all. This is just for the.
Legal?
movers and the.
That's a good question. I mean, I don't believe so. I don't know that there's an exemption for it. I don't have that code provision up in front of me. But currently, I would think that even the racetrack is probably plainly audible from 200 feet, and I don't think
Oh, yeah,
that
it
there's
is.
currently, I don't think there's currently any
course,
citations
so is
for
the
the
cyber
racetrack,
track.
so
But
I
there could
don't
be
know.
with this,
It was
right?
like DTC in the amendment, it has something to do with DTC and CF, I think, zoning.
I think that that is for the enforcement provision of the excessive noise, like for amplified sound. I'm not sure, I'd have to go back and look at the code, I don't have it in front of me about whether there is some sort of exemption for the racetrack or some sort of like metro facility or something like that.
Right, because Ascend, we have that, where
Right.
it's exempted because it's a metro.
Right, and so, yeah, I'm happy to look into that and let everyone know what it says.
Equally, I will ask the same exact question as it relates to scoring a goal on the pitch at the new soccer stadium.
Well, right, that's a good question, and I don't think that is because I think that most of the sound in the noise code is from like machinery or amplified through some sort of equipment. I think that if it's just,
Or
like
a concert
shouting.
at the new stadium.
Well, yeah, that may, right, and that's a good question, and I don't know if there's an exemption for that either.
So might I make a suggestion, Madam Chair?
Absolutely.
Would the sponsor be willing to do like a 2-meeting or a 2-week deferral so that we can get some of these questions answered
Most certainly.
before we go down this rabbit hole and can't get back out again?
Most certainly.
So is 2 weeks enough for you?
I think that I can have the answer.
So I'm gonna recommend
one
and make a
meeting
motion for a 1-meeting deferral on this.
Looking for a second?
Second.
And all in favor of a one-meeting deferral?
Aye.
And opposed? Look at that, we did stay unanimous. And the last item on the agenda is Bill 2022-1269 to amend the Metro Code pertaining to the Board of Fire and Building Codes Appeals.
Move approval.
And the amendment? Do we still?
And, yeah, can you move the amendment?
I'll move the amendment.
Thanks. So the amendment is by Councilor Allen. This is a friendly amendment to ensure that while we may not be able to have every single profession represented, that we would have at least 3 professions represented at one time. So we don't end up with a committee of all architects, for example, so that we'll have some balance. And that was also, I think, friendly to the staff.
Yeah, we're supportive.
Any questions about the amendment? All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Now we're down to 7. And then the bill as amended, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Thank you very much for another unanimous meeting of the Government Operations and Regulations Committee meeting.
But it comes off
Signing
consent
off.
then.
Welcome back.